What is your go-to fast food place? Or even a restaurant that you like? Could they be places like McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Chipotle even, Chick-fil-A, or Panda Express? These are all companies supporting a bigger problem than any of us could even imagine. When we think of animal farms, we might think of some of the things that the government may have done to help protect these animals, or the animals at the farms, to make sure that they are being processed humanely and not being tortured or abused instead. But have they done enough? Or is there a blind spot that we all fail to see, causing us to be able to not help as much, or help more than we could? There may not be too many things that the government has done, but with your help, we can help change that, and we can help save the lives of millions of animals suffering every single day. Being an animal lover my whole life, I would scroll through Facebook or Twitter, anything really, and you come across some posts, some really disturbing and upsetting posts, such as an animal being tortured or what happens on meat farms that we don't see, and it just makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach, and it really makes me want to put an end to all this cruelty that these animals have to go through on a daily basis. So we're going to look at some of the problems in factory farms, why things like this happen, and what the government and us as the people can do to help put an end to this cruelty. First of all, the problem is that we and the government have a sort of blind spot, like I said, when it comes to what happens on animal farms, including the living conditions, the way these animals are treated on the farm throughout their lifetime, and what they go through just to satisfy the bellies of 7 million people. First of all, there is barely any space for these animals to move or breathe or even lay down comfortably. And this can cause problems for the animals and the humans that eat the products and humans that live next to these farms. Animals will have their beaks, their horns, tails, toes, and testicles ripped off with no anesthesia to prevent the animals from fighting out of distress or even sheer boredom due to the cramped spaces. If you were forced to live in a space like this, I'm sure you would get aggravated too, and just to cure your boredom or do something, you end up hurting another one of your animals, another one of your friends. Pigs are often susceptible to ammonia poisoning because their crates are so small and they are rarely cleaned of the pig's bodily waste. This is just one of the examples of all the animals suffering. Another example are that chickens are crammed into small spaces no bigger than an A4 sheet of paper per animal. These living conditions get passed through the air, and the contamination that they produce causes illnesses in humans that range from brain damage, depression, to miscarriages, and even birth defects. They are also responsible for antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections and severe respiratory problems, according to animallegaldefensefund.org. Having procedures like these done, animals are more prone to infections, diseases, and illnesses, which can affect all the people that might live near these farms, even including asthma, like I said. Farming industries became popular in the 1960s and 70s when agricultural production couldn't keep up with the growing population of people. But the truth is, farming industries are still using this excuse to continue these cruel and almost criminal acts. And our current food system globally produces enough food for up to 14 billion people, more than half of our size population that we have now. According to Philip Limbury, an author of Farmageddon, The True Cost of Cheap Meat, and the chief executive of Compassion in World Farming. And there are many reasons and causes for these horrific acts that these farm owners use as an excuse to carry on what they've been doing for many years. So with the demand of these products, companies have to find a way to cut costs. And a way that they do this are with antibiotics, and they are used to make animals grow faster and to keep them alive in unsanitary conditions. Research shows that factory farms' widespread use of antibiotics can lead to an antibiotic-resistant bacteria that threatens human life and human health. Most factory farmed animals have been genetically manipulated to grow larger or to produce more eggs or milk than they naturally would. Some chickens grow so unnaturally large that their legs can't even support their outsized bodies, and they suffer from starvation or dehydration when they can't even walk or crawl to reach their food and water, according to PETA.org. And about 80% of antibiotics used in the United States each year is in the daily feed of farm animals, mostly to enable keeping animals in densely crowded conditions, which also reduces costs, according to New York Times. Factory farms do this because they can produce more products for all the consumers who purchase whatever the store goes eat by and cutting costs. Companies like Tyson Foods, which is America's largest meat company and controls 83% of meat production, Dean Foods, which controls about 1/3 of America's milk and dairy market, and Calamine Foods, which controls 1/4 of the nation's egg market. And these are among some of the leaders of these huge corporations playing a part in this cruelty. Tyson, like I said, is one of the largest supporters of chicken, beef, and pork to U.S. groceries, food service distributors, and fast food and full-service restaurant chains. These chains, which I said before, like KFC and Taco Bell and McDonald's, and so much more. They're also a supplier of Burger King, Wendy's, Walmart, Kroger, IGA, Beef O'Brady's, and small restaurant businesses and prisons. They have been found guilty of criminal pollution on multiple occasions. For example, in Missouri in 2003, Tyson pleaded guilty to 20 felonies and paid $7.5 million for Clean Water Act violations. Not only that, but Tyson slaughterhouses kill over 2 billion birds and mammals every year. To put this to perspective, a total of about 9 billion birds and mammals are killed every year in the U.S. And the list just goes on with all these other huge corporations. Also, $243 billion in sales revenues at fast food chains were estimated for 2017, and there are over 250,000 establishments just for limited service restaurants, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. You probably already knew this, but fast food tends to be high in calories, salt, fat, and sugar, which, when consumed in excess, can be associated with obesity, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and heart diseases, among other heart risks. So now, what can we do to help? Well, we as the people need to just cut down on meat, egg, and dairy. I'm not telling you to go vegan, okay? We just need to, relax a little bit, okay? And this won't only help us for our own benefits, but this will help all the other millions of animals suffering too. And the average meat eater will consume a total of 2,500 pigs, cows, chickens, turkeys, and sheep in their lifetime. Cutting down on meat also reduces the risk of number of chronic preventable diseases, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity. Eating fewer animal-based foods also benefits the planet by saving precious resources and reducing greenhouse gases associated with global warming, all according to the animalwelfareinstitute.org. Now, we can talk about the things that the government can do. Well, banning subtherapeutic antibiotics in agricultural, as the European Union has already done, would ease overcrowding and even make our food safer, because half of the meat tested from U.S. grocery stores were contaminated with staph infections, and half of which were antibiotic resistant, according to New York Times. The United States should also launch a domestic peace corps for farming. America needs to repopulate rural America and stimulate beneficial jobs for young people. Our nation struggles with unemployment, as you know, and yet traditional farming is disappearing partly because it is more labor intensive. Training the next generation in sustainable agriculture and assisting them to start new farms could be a brave president's boldest and most lasting initiative. So now, hopefully, we can help fight to protect animals from cruelty and exploitation, reducing animal suffering, and to promote compassion and respect for all living beings as we should. Now that you know the horrors that take place every day to these poor, suffering, and helpless animals, the conditions they're kept in, and why companies do this, and what we can do as a nation, I hope that you are motivated to try and help. So the next time you consider ordering that number 2 at the drive-thru window, think about the ammonia that bacon was being forced to inhale before it was slaughtered, or how those scrambled eggs that the chicken was put into overdrive to produce as many eggs as physically possible. Think about that. Now we can help end the crisis, and it all starts with you. Thank you.